Hi, so this video is as promised to remind folk how to do the solid granny square. For those of you who are doing the solid granny square, scrappy granny square sweater crochet pattern. So, as you know, the pattern that I used scrap sock yarn like this, which is kind of 4-ply with a 3.5 hook. This one has been miloed, as you can see. But for the purposes of this video, I am going to use a thicker weight yarn and a bigger hook. Now, the pattern calls for 3 rounds of sock yarn with the 3.5 hook. If you don't have scrap sock yarn, you can certainly use DK scrap yarn, but perhaps just do 2 rounds instead of 3 rounds, so as we have enough flexibility to adjust the sizes and stuff. So just going to get going now. I've got that caught up. So we start with what everybody loves, which is the magic circle. And the way that I do a magic circle is I take the tail of my yarn and I put it over my hand like that. And then I make a circle or a P, if you like, the top. Just slide it up to the top of my finger and hold it with my thumb. And then if you put your hand over, you can catch the yarn at the other side. This gives you the ability to keep it nice and steady while you're getting started. So then you take your hook, you put it in through the circle, grab the yarn and bring it through the circle. And now you're just going to do 1 chain. So that's grab the yarn and bring it through. So once you have done your chain, that is the circle, the magic circle secure. If it's a bit too loose, you can just pull on the tail and make it a bit smaller if it'd be easier for you to work with. But all the first round stitches go in through this circle. And the important thing to remember is that you always have the double strand that you're working under, okay? If it turned round, for example, and you were doing it that way, the magic wouldn't happen, okay? So you need to keep it so that if you're working round the circle from right to left, the double strand is at the top and you're going in under that, okay? So now you can hold the yarn whatever way works for you. Oops. Okay. And follow the pattern. And the pattern suggests that we do 2 chain. So that's 1, 2. I'm just going to do the first treble slowly for those of you who are kind of new to it. So in order to do the first treble, we grab the yarn in through the circle. Again, if you're holding it there, just so that you can get in, grab the yarn, bring it out through the circle. You have 3 loops in your hook. Grab the yarn, bring it through 2. Grab the yarn and bring it through 2. So the pattern suggests that we do 1 treble. The 2 chain count as your first stitch, okay? And then you have 1 treble. So we've now done 2 stitches there. And then we get to our first corner. And all the corners are the same in this solid square. So we do 2 chain, that's 1, 2 chain, and then we do 3 treble. And I'll just do this first treble slowly again for those who are learning. So that's yarn over, you're going in through the circle, grab the yarn, bring it out through the circle. You have 3 loops in your hook here, grab the yarn, bring it through 2, grab the yarn and bring it through 2. Ask me to do 3 of those, so I am going to do 3 of them. Okay, so that gives me my first full side with a corner, okay? And I have to repeat that 3 times. So I'm just going to do that. 2 chain and 3 treble. Two chain and 3 treble. Still making sure we've got the 2 strands here, okay? Now like so. So what we want to do, we've now done that 3 times, okay? We've got 1, 2, 3 sides, and we've got 1, 2, 3 corners. I have 1 more corner to do, so that's 2 chain. And then because we started with just 2 stitches, we have 1 last stitch to do before we join it up. That's 1 last treble into the center, like so. And then this is where the magic happens. So you pull the tail nice and tight, and you can see now that we have our first round. Okay, now we need to join it up. So what we want to do here is join into the stitch, not into the top of the chain, not here, okay? But if you follow, look at your first proper stitch that you did, you want to go in to the top of that stitch, under the V at the top. Grab the yarn and you're going to do a slip stitch. So that is grab the yarn, pull it through that stitch and through the loop in your hook. And that is the first round finished. Okay. So now we want to go on to the second round. And what we do is we flip the square. This means it keeps it nice and square. Sounds a bit daft, but that's why we do it. So we want to flip it this way. Okay, so that the yarn remains at the back. If we had flipped it this way, the yarn is coming from the front, and that's not what we want, okay? We want back to where we started. You want to flip it this way so that the yarn is at the back. And then that means we can see clearly where we're going to put the first standing treble. Okay, a standing treble is basically a double crochet on top of a double crochet, but it's where do you put it? So we're not going to do any chain. If you don't want to do the standing treble, you would just do 2 chain at this stage and it would count as this first stitch, but we're going to do a standing treble. So no chain at all, and where you're going, I'll just pull that out a wee bit so that I can show you. Where you want to go is just in there. And that's why I've done it in this thicker yarn, so you can kind of see what I'm doing better. It's a wee bit harder to find when you're doing it on the 4-ply. So we're just going to pop the hook in through there. And as I say, it's a double crochet. So you're grabbing the yarn and you're bringing it through. 2 loops in your hook, grabbing the yarn and bringing it through. So we've half of our standing treble done now. Now what we want to do is slip the hook in through the middle of that double crochet. So in there, whatever way you can get in. Okay, grab the yarn, bring it through and finish off yarn over and through the 2. And now you're up the full height and you've got a standing treble. As near as makes no difference. And the pattern then says you have 1 treble before you get to the corner. So that is that one there. 1 treble there. And then we do our first corner on the second round, which is 2 trebles, 2 chain, and 2 trebles. Okay, so you can see we're getting round our second round, and now we have 3 trebles and then another corner, 3 trebles, another corner, 3 trebles, another corner. I'll go on round and catch up with you there. So you can see we've worked our way right round and we're back at the last corner. So that is just like the previous corners and the same in the corners of the next round. That's 2 trebles, 2 chain, and 2 trebles. I'm sorry, but the dog just has decided to start barking. That's amazing. So we're back round and we have 1 more treble to do before we're at the end of our round, as the pattern says. So that treble is just there. And that is our second round complete, but we need to join it up. And we do it the same way as the last time. the last time we didn't go into the top of the chain, and we're not going to this time either. We're going into the top of the next V. So if you look at the top, there's a V there. This is your first proper treble, and it's just at the top of there. So you're going to slip stitch in there, grab the yarn and bring it through 2, and that is your second round finished. And we flip again. And basically, I guess just before I go over there, what we should have is 7 stitches on either side and 2 chain in each corner. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we know we have the right number of stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we're going to flip the same as we did the last time. We want the yarn at the back, so we flip that way. We're going to do another standing treble, and it's into the middle stitch. So just see, there's your stitch there, and there's your wee spot that you want to go in to do your standing treble. So if you remember, we don't do any chain, we just put the hook in and we do a double crochet. And then you go through the center of that double crochet and do another double crochet, and we have standing treble. Okay, and the pattern then says we have 3 stitches, which you can see we have 1, 2, 3 before we get to the corner. Our corners are the same as they were before. There are 2 trebles, 2 chain and 2 trebles. So I'm going to do 3 trebles, 2 and 3 to take me up to the corner, and then I'm 2 trebles, 2 chain and 2 trebles. Maybe a bit more yarn, and this time we have 7 trebles to work along the top and do another corner. So I will do that and meet you right back round at this corner here. So as you can see, I've worked my way right round. I've done my 7 trebles and my 2 trebles, 2 chain, 2 trebles in each corner, which means I now have 11 stitches along each side. So I'm just going to finish off this last corner, which is 2 trebles, 2 chain and 2 trebles. And then we still have 3 stitches. It says we have 3 stitches still to do to make up the 11. And if you're unsure how many you have to do, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I need 11. So there's 1, 2, 3 stitches still left to do to finish off this round. So just do those. 1, 2 and 3. And this time, rather than slip stitch, this is the end of our round. I will show you a nice neat way to finish off the top of this, which will make it easier when we go to join the squares up. So basically what we do is leave enough that you'll be able to use a yarn needle with, snip that off and just pull that out. Now that is perfectly safe. You know, you can do 10 squares and leave them all like this, and then maybe use your darning needle to do 10 at a time. It's advisable not to go more than about 10, because otherwise you will have loads of ends to fill in. So I'm just going to thread this needle. So what you're doing is you're looking at the top. You see this is coming out now of the middle of this stitch here. This is where your yarn's coming out. And we want to mimic a stitch at the top. So again, we're not going to go into this one. We're going to go into the next one. So basically we go under the V like that. Don't pull it too tight. You want it to look like it's continuous stitch the whole way around, and then you want to go in where the other yarn's coming out of. So in through there, like that. And if you can see, you just want to pull that until you get it to where it looks like a continuous stitch along the top. I'm going to turn over now and show you that the way I then weave the end in. I basically go over to it's coming out this side, I go back over here, go, because that kind of joins that in a wee bit better. And then I take it down to the bottom and go along a few stitches like so. And you want to be able to wear this jumper and it not unravel. Okay, so again, making sure that I haven't pulled this too tight or anything at the top. And the way to make sure you've woven something in properly is when it comes out, you go over one stitch. So you see it's coming out here. Well, you can see that or not, but there's one stitch here. So I'm going to go over the top of that and back in along like so. I pulled that out accidentally. Okay, and now you can definitely be comfortable about just snipping that off nice and close so that you can't see it. Just a word of warning about magic circles and finishing off as well. They do need to be finished off nice and securely, so you want to pull that nice and tight. If you can look at the way the yarn is coming out this side, so the way I would do it again is take it right round the circle. So find this so tight, having difficulty getting it in. So I've gone right round the circle once. I'm going to use the same method where I take one strand, go over it and in under and go back again. Right round. Bit tedious, but it's better than having to do them when they undo after washing or wearing. And I obviously didn't, got a wee bit there, you see. Didn't pull that one tight. Anyhow, you get the idea. And then you can snip that off. And that's one of your squares done. Nice and flat. Thank you for listening. Bye.